My name is Carson Becker, and I am the artistic director here at Chicago Dramatists. I want to give you all a warm and gracious welcome to this year's gala, and what a year it has been. Our evening tonight, entitled Nuit, A Night of Transformation, feels most fitting, as I don't imagine any of us here has escaped or been immune to the metamorphosizing and galvanizing effects of this past year and a half. It has been a time of great challenge, revolution, and change, and I also believe one of hope and positive growth. Historically, these conditions are conducive and, in many ways, ideal for making relevant and meaningful art. And we here at Chicago Dramatists are at the heart of supporting theater art in all of our myriad new play development programming. And your donations tonight will help us be that much more robust and effective in our mission to ensure that playwrights at all stages of their development and career have a place to call their workshop, their community, and their home. I want to take a moment to thank everyone who donated to us in the past year and a half. You kept us going, as well as to all of you who may and will this evening. I must as well give a shout out of deep gratitude to our tireless board, our diversity and artistic affairs committees, and all of our resident, Tutterow Fellow, and network playwrights, past, present, and future, who continue to be the lifeblood of this organization. Your passion, talent, and support helps us to continue and to bring new and powerful and diverse stories to the American stage. So thank you for being with us here tonight. And now, without further ado, I will pass this over to Glenn B. Rust, our technical director, so that he can share some virtual tips and information to make your experience tonight that much more enjoyable. And I will see you at the end of the show. Cheers.
Hi, my name is Glenn B. Rust. I'm here to tell you about all of the exciting ways you can get engaged with this evening's event. The pre-recorded portion of tonight's event will last about an hour, and during it we highly encourage you to be talking along with us in the chat to the right of the video. If you do not have a Twitch account but would like to join the conversation, you can set up an account for free and join us right back here at twitch.tv/ChicagoDramatists. Following the main event, we will take a brief intermission before beginning a live discussion with some of the folks you'll see featured tonight. If you have any questions or comments you want to send their way, be sure to send those in the chat as well. Now, you're going to be hearing a lot about our exciting programming tonight, and all of the new events and scholarships we're offering would not be possible without your support. You can donate to this evening's event in a few different ways. First, you'll find donation links below the video in our About section and posted by our moderators in the chat. As well, at any time, you can text GIVE to 872-201-1077 to donate on your phone. Finally, we received a generous $5,000 matching grant for this evening's event, so if you've been thinking about giving, now is definitely the time to do it. Thank you so much for your continued support. We'll see you again at the end of the night.
Up next, we have a roundtable discussion with female artistic directors from around the Chicago area. Joining our very own Carson Becker, we have Olivia Lilley from Prop Theater, Rohina Malik from Medina Theater, and Lanise Antoine Shelley from House Theater. Enjoy.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Carson Becker, and I am the artistic director of Chicago Dramatists. We are here at a roundtable with new or relatively new women artistic directors of Chicago theaters.
My name is Rohina Malik. I am the artistic director of the brand new Medina Theater Collective, and our mission is to celebrate the Swanasa community, which is Southwest Asian or the Middle East, North African, and South Asian. And I'm so excited to be here.
Hi, I'm Lanise Antoine Shelley, and I am the artistic director of the House Theater of Chicago.
Hi, I'm Olivia Lilley. I'm artistic director of Prop Theater. We produce all devised work from idea through to full production, as well as rolling world premieres with the National New Play Network.
Can you share some of the plays, some of the artists, some of your mentors, works of art, even outside of theater, works of art that have uplifted you and put you on your path or keep you inspired and keep you going as a sort of North Star?
I'll shout out a couple. So I'm really excited about a potential collaboration. I'm producing a show called Underdrown, which is part one in a trilogy, the Night Queen trilogy by Derek McFadden, who's a dramatist. But we're going to work with Honeypot Performance Collective. I'm so excited. They're a devising ensemble, and they are doing an epic project over the summer that I can't even say anything about, but we pitched them 3 potential ways of working with us, and they're taking it to their collective and coming back to us really soon, and I cannot wait.
I just got, well, I was just going to say I got turned on to a playwright, but I've actually known of this playwright for quite some time. And now I have the opportunity to delve a little further into Aimé Césaire, West Indian playwright. And I'm so excited about possibilities of producing Aimé Césaire's work simply because I'm West Indian, and bringing my heritage to the stage is really exciting to me. And Aimé Césaire wrote A Tempest. So he has his own rendition of The Tempest, which is so exciting. And he also wrote The Tragedy of King Christophe. And he was prevalent in the early 1900s. And he was obsessed with Haiti. And so I just am so excited to look deeper into his work and into his perception, his perspective of theater at that time, and his adaptation of classics that we know. It just all seems very exciting.
I mentioned some of the playwrights to you. Hannah Khalil, half Irish, half Palestinian. Her work, just that inspiration when you read such powerful work that matters. And reading her play just helped me. That little thing that just started to make me feel like just inspired. And then when I read Ahmed Massoud's one-woman play, The Shroud Maker, about this woman in Gaza that makes shrouds. And then it goes into flashback, and I'm reading this 24 pages, and I can't tell you how much it just moved my heart.
Can anyone talk about, did you start as an actor? Did you start as a director? Are you triple threats? Can anyone talk about this journey into this?
I'll take it. Yeah. So when I was in high school, I started writing musicals. I was a composer and lyricist. And I did a lot of drawing of the sets and costumes as well. My brain was very, very big picture. I didn't really know what a director was yet. And I went to Interlochen Arts Academy for music composition, and really quickly hated the idea of music for music's sake. Music to me was a tool to tell a story. And so when I discovered what a director was, I learned, I could have agency, I could do things, I could make stuff happen. And I ended up kind of moving away from the musical theater world and did the BFA in directing at Carnegie Mellon, where I finally was really felt like I could thrive. But at Prop, I will make one. Basically, my deal is when I accepted the job, they wanted me to devise and write a show one per year and then produce someone else's. So now I take that. Yeah, that's really kind of my bread and butter is championing others and giving them a devised process and teaching other people that process that I've kind of come up with. And then also having space for one thing I make, whether it's I'm writing and directing or I'm just directing with another writer. It depends on the season. I've been kind of trying to change it up because any ways in which I can spread this kind of process of devising plus new play development to other people, and give them the kind of power to kind of take it and run with it. That's the most important thing to me. is I see the power of the potential process and how other people can apply it. So I am an artist, but I also right now really feel that's where I can be doing the most work.
Yeah, that's definitely what inspired me to be an AD. Originally in undergrad, I have a degree in acting, directing, and playwriting. And for the past 20 years, the majority of my career, I have focused on acting. And then the past 7 or 8 years, I've started to transition into directing more and doing acting and directing equally. Mm-hmm. And like you, Carson, this AD ship came out of oblivion, and I think it was well timed simply because I was unemployed. And I was wondering what was next, because last year I was in Schoolgirls, African Mean Girls, acting in that at Goodman. And then the pandemic hit and we closed 3 days before opening. And all of the gigs that I had lined up acting and directing wise just vanished overnight. I'm sure it did for everyone. And so I had started to create opportunities for myself, such as become more active in the adoption community. I'm a Haitian adoptee, an interracial, intercultural adoptee. And so I became a voice for that cause. And I created a podcast and a panel series and wrote a play about it. And the play is being developed by Paramount Theater right now. And so I've had my hands in many things throughout the years. And I feel that that has prepared me for this moment, which is I do need to have some kind of prowess in directing, acting, and writing. And the administrative prowess will come someday. I'm learning. Being on the other side of the table, I'm like, wait, why do we need this form? You know? And so that will come eventually, but artistically.
Just you wait. All those
you know, whew, man, I am out of my depth. But artistically, I have a multi-dimensional view of what is possible. And that is the engine that propels me forward.
I was having a conversation with a playwright this morning just about, like, we'd love to talk about change, you know, and there's big change, there's macro change, there's these micro changes that we're all being, confronted with. I think the sequestering, and people are doing life reviews, and, but that to be heading an arts organization right now in this political, cultural American moment is, while I'm tired a lot of the time, I think I'm going to look back and go, that was a kind of fortune I never imagined. And to be able to create value, the kind of value I'm hoping and sometimes succeeding in making is really special. So as new ADs, what have been some of your biggest challenges so far? And also, what have been some of your greatest satisfactions and successes?
Well, for me, I've been in this position for about a month now and some change. And so I haven't had any monumental successes, but I do count the daily triumphs, such as the play that I want to produce. The translators are super excited about me taking it on. So that felt like a huge win for me as I start to program the season. One of the challenges I'm finding coming into an institution that is 20 years history is finding my own voice in that 20-year history and finding harmony with those who've been in the trenches and who are very acquainted with a certain way of working, a certain way of moving through this theater. And then I come in and it's a hard left from anything they've ever seen before. So it's very sobering, right? And we have to balance how much both of us need to let go, right? Because I came in thinking that, I could do this and this and this, as all of my proposals led me to believe. And then I get to the other side and I find a completely different country. And I have yet to learn the language. And so it's being patient with myself and being patient with those around me and finding a sense of harmony.
I can relate some to that. I took over Dramatists when it was in something of a crisis, and there was this sort of theory of what it was. It was all explained and what I would be coming into, and how we were going to be, fixing and bailing water out of the ship as we were sailing it, and I thought, okay, I can do that. I'm limber and creative and theater person. And then, so there's the theory and then there's the reality.
Exactly.
And it was like, wow, okay, this is really I'm rolling up my shirt sleeves here and boy, expanding my skill set. And so, I mean, Olivia, you took on also a company that had been around for a very long time.
Yeah, so Prop just turned 40 this year. When I took over in March of 2018, I had been acquainted with the company in different ways. I had done Rhino Fest. I had a hit there. They had let me do this production of Faust that performed in the apartment upstairs in 2015. That's kind of how I met them. And then I did a co-production with them in the fall of 2017. And from that experience, I kind of got a sense of what it was like to work with them. And when I pitched them my second show, that's when I got the AD offer. And it was really exciting going into a space where we have our own building and we had a budget already set. But it was a wild adventure figuring out how is this place working? What are my staff members doing? Like, one of the first things I had everyone do was write out what they did. And so how can we truly make Chicago theater sustainable? That's sort of my goal with Prop. Because it has endured over 40 years in many, many forms.
Yeah.
But yeah, our big question that we're always after is now, like, how do we thrive?
I think the biggest, like, for us, success has been getting started. Today was exciting because the application was sent for to become to get the 501c3 status. So that was a big deal. And so that was something I am celebrating in my heart, because once we get that status, then we can start applying for grants, and it's going to open a whole new window of opportunity for our theater company. But our biggest success is that so many Chicago and New York artists said yes to being a part of this theater company. And it's such a great mix of artists. And one thing that I was really passionate about was the fact that I now have an opportunity to champion the writers that so often get ignored in the American theater. But one of our challenges has been, honestly, COVID. We were having a play by another Palestinian artist. His name is Ahmed Massoud. He's born and raised in Gaza. And to have a voice from Gaza, who's a playwright who writes in English and writes so beautifully. When I read his one-woman play, The Shroud Maker, my heart stopped. And I said, wow, we have to do this. So that was going to go up live in person in partnership with International Voices Project. And then I get an email saying from International Voices Project saying, we've decided, due to COVID fears, we're going to push it till October. So that's all. I'm not going to say canceled, but postponed till October. But it was very disappointing.
Yeah.
So COVID has been a big challenge for us. But other than that, work that's virtual is happening, and we're going to keep going until it's safe again to do live theater. We're going to have things ready that we can start talking to other theaters about possibly partnering, because we're brand new. And I know I can't do things alone at this point with my theater, but we can partner with other theaters. So I'm just reading a lot of plays, and it's an exciting time.
I just want to say thank you all for coming and being here with me. And I really look forward to being in Chicago with you all soon. And I'm so happy to be with all of you beautiful AD women.
Thank you so much, Carson. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. And I look forward to the future. We're going to get through this pandemic, and we're going to be collaborating and making art together. And I'm excited for that day.
Okay, bye. Stay well.
Be in touch.
You walk into Chicago Dramatists and you think to yourself, do I have a play in me? Is this something I can do? I think you secretly hope that, you have this natural gift that you've never really known about, and it's just gonna come forth. You're gonna be the most brilliant person in the class. And then you realize that's not the case. And what happens, you find yourself in this incredibly supportive environment of colleagues, teachers, people who eventually become friends and mentors, and suddenly you have a play, and then suddenly you have a reading with actors, and then suddenly you have a public reading, and then you go back and you realize that you did have a play in you. And a place like Chicago Dramatists is incredibly special and nurturing for just that reason. You know, you show up and you have all sorts of doubts and hopes, and it's the kind of place that you really understand that almost anything is possible.
Hey, 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 my friends. My name is Arlene Malinowski. I am a resident playwright at Chicago Dramatists. I self-identify as an artist with a disability, and I'm really proud to be part of the Access program. Chicago Dramatists really strive to be a place of inclusion. Our goal is to support artists who self-identify as deaf or disabled, for both people with visible disabilities and invisible disabilities. And we recognize that deaf and disabled voices are marginalized and really need opportunities to break through the mainstream culture. And we want to provide opportunities and visibility for their work. We want to be part of changing people's perceptions about disability and artists with disability. Our goal is really twofold: to help develop the playwrights themselves, and if the artist is writing about disability, we want to support them in creating authentic representations of deaf and disabled characters. So, we're committed to providing funding, audiences, and collaboration, scholarship for classes, script development, and a workshop reading of their material. We're really proud that we are one of the theaters that are truly dedicated to the voices of deaf and disabled writers. I'm so grateful for your support for the Access program, and I can't wait to see you at some of our events.
Up next, we have a performance from our March 48-hour festival. This is 5678 by Connor McShane, directed by Tony Montia, and starring Michael Colby, Susan Breck, and Joel Miller. Enjoy.
Hi, you must be Mary Ann. Don't mind me. I'm just playing a little hold music. You're on mute, honey. You're on mute. You need to push.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Yep, I can hear you.
Sorry about that. Still not used to all this Zoom stuff.
It's quite all right.
Sorry, a bit late too. Technical troubles. Hello.
Hi. Is your husband joining us?
He should be joining any moment now. He's using the computer in his office. He said if he was going to do something degrading, he wanted to do it in his own space. Can you believe that?
I can.
Clyde, come on. We're already late. Click on get that thing. He's one of those types where if he didn't think of it, then it can't be worth doing. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
It's like, forgive me for actually trying, it's for actually having ideas rather than just complaining. Sorry, I guess you didn't want to hear all of that.
It's okay. And actually, I think it's fine that you're doing this. And I do want to say I have had great success with couples.
Thank you. I sure hope so. Well, look who decided to show up.
Hi, you must be Clyde. I'm Roxy.
You're Roxy?
Yes, I am.
Huh. Okay.
Is there a problem?
I just thought,
Yes?
is that your real name?
Oh, for Christ's sake.
It's not my real name, no.
Okay, because that's a funny name for a... Never mind.
Okie doke, let's just get started. First of all, has either of you ever been to a burlesque show before?
I have.
When did you go to a burlesque show?
I've been to many burlesque shows, Clyde. Last time was for Janice's birthday party 5 years ago. We went to this place in the city. What was it called? I think it was Uptown Downtown.
Uptown Underground.
Oh, yes, that's it. Uptown Underground. Have you ever performed there?
I did. It's not there anymore, sadly.
Oh, that's a shame. It was so fun. You know, Roxy, I was a dancer myself once upon a time.
Oh, is that so?
Yes, I studied ballet for many years in my youth. I loved it so much. Even when it was excruciatingly painful, I still loved it. I love all kinds of dance, really. Ballet, tap, jazz, ballroom. Clyde and I took ballroom lessons for our wedding. Remember that, Clyde?
How could I forget?
Anyway, I wanted to study it in college, but my parents talked some sense into me, and I went into psychology instead. But I found burlesque so fascinating. Did you know that burlesque goes back to the 19th century?
I did know that, yes.
Well, Christ, Marianne, of course he knows that. He's a burlesque person, for crying out loud.
Well, I don't know what he knows.
It's okay. Let's move on. So I'm going to show you a short routine, and then we're going to walk through it together. Did you get the feather boas that I sent you?
Yes.
Clyde, do you have your boa?
Clyde, I left it on your desk.
Yeah, see, I thought this was going to be more of a Marianne dances and I just kind of watch sort of thing.
I mean, we can do that if you want.
Clyde. No, Clyde, no. The whole point was that we would do this together. Dr. Martinez said we should find activities to do together to foster a sense of intimacy.
How does me dancing around like an idiot foster a sense of intimacy?
Because it's sensual, Clyde. It's a sensual dance.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me. How could I be so stupid?
Jesus, Clyde. I mean, why do I even try? Why do I even try?
Sleep! That's the drama alarm. I play that when there's too much drama. Shall we proceed?
Clyde, will you try? Just for me? Nobody's going to see you.
All right. Fine. Let's just get it over with. But I'm not wearing that fluffy thing.
All right. That's the spirit. Okay. I'm going to do a little demo and then I'll walk you through it.
It was wonderful. So sensual.
Well, thank you, Marianne.
I have a question.
Yes, Clyde.
How'd you get into this line of work anyway?
Oh, good Lord.
What? I'm just curious.
Normally I'm performing on stage 3 or 4 nights a week, and I teach bachelorette parties a few times a month. But obviously that is not an option right now. So here I am.
And this sort of thing pays the rent, huh?
Well, between this and unemployment.
Ah, I see.
Clyde, what is the point of these questions?
What? I'm building a rapport. It makes me feel more comfortable.
I'm sorry for him, Roxy. I'm really sorry.
No, it's okay. It's nothing that I haven't heard from my dad before. You remind me a lot of him, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, real self-made man, very sure of himself, proud of all his achievements, a real pull yourself up by the bootstraps kind of guy. Basically the opposite of me in every way. Go figure.
Sounds like my kind of guy.
Yeah, I bet you would get along famously.
Sorry to interrupt, but can we get back to the lesson, please?
Sorry about that, Marianne. You're right. Let's get back on track. Are you guys ready to give the dance a try?
Please.
Okay. So I'm going to have you adjust the camera so I can see your bodies. And you're going to start out with your boas around your neck like this. And you're just gonna caress the boa all the way down. Just really present it to me. Okay, let's just try that. 5, 6, 7, 8. Ba, 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 da, ba. Yeah, Mary Ann. Beautiful. Clyde, try to make it really smooth, really, really sensual like this. Ba, 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 da, ba. Try it again. Yeah, that's better. You just you look a little stiff.
Huh, wonder why.
All right, so after that, I want you to bring the boa up behind your head like this, and you're just gonna shake it from side to side. Okay, let's try all that together. 5, 6, 7, 8. Touch, 2, 3, 4. Up, 2, 3, 4. Side to side, 3, 4. Oh, Mary Ann, are you showing your classes?
You're too kind, but thank you.
Clyde, how you feeling?
Splendid.
All right, let's move on. So from here, you're going to throw the boa in front of you and you're going to step over it like this. And you're just going to kind of lift it up slowly. And as you lift, add a little hip action, a little gyration, just a little bit. We're being playful. We're not being pornographic.
Oh, this is just too fun.
Well, I'm glad you're having fun. Clyde, are you having fun?
A blast.
All right, let's put that part together, okay? 5, 6, 7, 8, and throw. 2, 3, 4. Lift. 2, 3, 4.
I can't do this.
Clyde, come on.
I can't do this, Mary Ann. I feel like an idiot.
Just embrace it. It's a new experience.
I tried. Okay, like I tried the boozy painting class and the couples cooking thing and the counseling and all the other stuff, and it's not working. None of it's working.
Clyde, what are you saying to me just now?
I'm saying maybe it's us. Maybe something's
what?
I don't know, Mary Ann. I don't know. I'm sorry.
We've been together 28 years. Can you believe that? I remember when we took ballroom class, the one I told you about. God, he was so nervous. You could just feel it radiating off his body. You and me, I mean, we're dancers. We don't remember what it's like to not know how to use your body, you know? So it's so natural to us, but to him, well, people usually say somebody has 2 left feet, but with like him, it was like he had no feet at all. But he did it. And by the time the wedding rolled around, you should have seen him. He spun me around that ballroom like a completely different man. I don't know what happened to that man. Anyway, don't worry. I'll still pay for the both of us.
Oh, sweetie. That was never in doubt.
Are you married, Roxy?
You can call me Jeff. No, I'm not. I've had a few serious ones over the years, but nothing stuck.
Well, lucky you.
Tell you what, why don't we run through it together one more time? If you think you remember it.
I think so.
All right. 5, 6, 7, 8. Just show that to Clyde. He'll be licking your boots in no time.
You know what? I'm going to keep this one just for me.
That's good too. Are you going to be okay?
I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. I'll be back in touch. Thanks, Jeff.
Hi, I'm Amy Kreider. I started at Chicago Dramatists in 2010. And when I walked in the door and saw people greeting each other so warmly, I hoped I would make friends. And what I love about Chicago Dramatists is that you don't remain a stranger for very long. And when I walked in the door, I overheard a young man say to a teacher that he was semi-finalist at the O'Neill. And I thought, what's the O'Neill? Why can't I be semi-finalist at the O'Neill? And in a couple of years I was, thanks to Chicago Dramatists. What I appreciate about Chicago Dramatists is that it's given me a professional identity, which I didn't really have before. I had been trying to write for a long time before I started there, but I always hesitated to identify myself as a writer. But with Chicago Dramatists, I do embrace being a playwright, and it means the world to me to have that identity. So thank you, Chicago Dramatists. I hope you'll support Chicago Dramatists in its continuing mission to help so many people like me find our voices. Thank you.
It was my honor to lead one of the workshops in Chicago Dramatists' free anti-racism class series. My workshop, Sister, Soldier, Self-Preserver, was born in the summer of 2020 in the midst of the resurgence of our country's white supremacist and misogynist leanings, as well as the social unrest and push for solutions that rose up in response. But the workshop also had ties to two principles that women and people of color have been embracing to survive and thrive against hate for centuries. Principles that Chicago Dramatists' free anti-racism class series embraces as well. The principle that art matters, even and especially in the worst of times, and that providing a safe space for artists, all artists, regardless of background or resources, to practice their craft and inspire and support each other is essential to art. So the inaugural session of Sister Soldier Self-Preserver had 8 amazing Black women playwrights. They were of different writing styles, heritages, cities, ages, experiences, but all were talented and generous artists. They gave each other creative support through insightful, thoughtful feedback, and emotional support through sisterhood. Over 7 weeks, we had fun, we got sad, we became angry, but most important, we felt connected, protected, and understood. Several participants found new friends and mentors, and for me, it was one of the most rewarding teaching experiences that I've ever had. We even showcased participants' work to the broader theater community with a public Zoom evening of excerpts performed by trained actors, followed by a panel discussion with the playwrights. And all of this, the 7 weeks and then the final showcase, was all possible thanks to Chicago Dramatists and its generous supporters, so that none of the playwrights were charged to attend the class. So maybe the series should be called the Free, Pro-Equity, Pro-Safety, Pro-Integration, Pro-Inspiration, Pro-Community, and Pro-Opportunity class series. It is Chicago Dramatists' mission to stand as an inclusive community that nurtures dramatic writers and enables dramatic change. The free anti-racism class series is one example of that commitment. It needs and deserves our support, especially now, because Chicago and American theater deserve all the talented voices they can get, especially now. If you can, please give.
This is Diana Lawrence, the recipient of the 2021 Jerry Harrington Award for Outstanding Creative Achievement in Musical Theater, with her song Flying Machine.
Zipping through the gridlock on a Friday afternoon. Gotta get to where I'm going, 'cause the weather said a storm is coming soon. Drivers, they can keep their smoggy boxes groaning in a herd. I've got fresh air, my freedom, and the beauty of a bird. Look at me in my flying machine, there's Earth flying machine. I blink and I'm careening down my Midwest cul-de-sac with my father right beside me, running hand on handlebars or on my back. Then I feel the lift, that magic balance holding me as I fly far beyond my home towards all that I can be. Look at me in my flying machine, there's earth, there's sky, but I'm in between here and now and still 13. Every time I ride my flying machine, and away I go into the unknown. No moment is certain, but my direction is my own. Just my wheels and my body and the memory of all the miles I've flown. Da 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 da. The rain is coming down, but I don't mind it much, I guess. Your tools and helmet keep you safe, but boy, they sure won't save you from the mess. Past Marie's and smell the bread, someone's singing down the street. Another mile to go, and I feel magic fuel my feet. Oh, whoa. But I'm in between, lifting off on wings unseen, here and now and still 13, a glimpse of what a life can mean. Every time I ride my flying machine. Me and my flying machine.
Hi, I'm Diana Lawrence, and I teach writing music for musical theater at Chicago Dramatists. Chicago Dramatists is one of the first places I had a chance to work when I moved to Chicago. I also attended some amazing networking events there early in my career, which really helped me meet some great people in our community. And now that I have a chance to teach there, I'm experiencing it from the other side as a springboard for new writers, for folks who are interested in exploring what it is to write music for theater. And I love being a part of that. I love mentoring folks who are brand new to our scene and folks that have been in the scene for a while and are exploring something brand new. And it's a safe space for people to learn, a safe space for people to grow and meet others and expand who they are in our theater community. And I really hope that you can support that tonight. Thank you.
This year, Chicago Dramatists launched its first youth class series, featuring 3 different courses and reaching a variety of students ranging from age 7 to 18. These courses created a fun, safe, and nurturing environment which allowed students to flourish while working with industry professionals, jump-starting their theater careers, and developing their confidence, creative writing, and communication skills. Stay tuned as we look forward to offering more of these courses in the future.
Hi, my name is Marcia Estelle, and I am the Tuttle Fellowship Program Director. Chicago Dramatists is my home. I started here many years ago as a budding playwright with an idea in my head. I joined the network, which is a great program also, and I got a production at Chicago Dramatists, and it was directed by the artistic director, Russ Tuttle. I later became a resident playwright. So I know a lot about Chicago Dramatists. The next program that was developed at Chicago Dramatists was the Tuttle Fellowship Program, and that was created to honor the legacy of Russ Tuttle, our beloved artistic director, who passed away in 2015. Russ Tuttle represented play development and nurturing in the playwrights. And so this program, it was a 2-year intensive, and there were 6 cohorts we offered them classes. They received a mentor. They had monthly meetings to discuss industry and meet with industry professionals such as agents or Dramatists Guild representatives and other playwrights. They receive table readings of their new work. And in their second year, they received a commission from Chicago Dramatists, and they received a little money to develop a new play. The first cohorts graduated in 2019, and I am happy to say they are doing very well in pursuing their career in playwriting, screenwriting, and even television writing. I do keep close tabs on them. I'm happy to say that we had a second group in 2018, and they are finishing up their residency here. They are working on putting the last finished touches on their commission, and I'm really happy to see them graduate the program. We did extend it because of COVID, the pandemic, but you should be hearing about these playwrights very soon. For more information on the Teymour Fellowship Program, please go to the website. Play development every day. Thank you.
Finishing out tonight's event, we have a roundtable discussion with theater artists that have worked all around the world. Hosted by resident playwright Emilio Williams, we brought in Neil Blackadder, author of translations for many artists such as Lukas Bärfuss, Cunha, the co-artistic director of the Physical Theater Festival, Kestutis Nakas, who was recently featured at the New York City's Museum of Modern Art, Kate Hendrickson, the resident director of Trapdoor Theater, and Fouad Teymour, author of the Jeff Award-winning play Twice, Thrice, Frice. We asked them to dig into some of the things they find unique about international theater versus Chicago theater. Enjoy.
You know, in New York City, which is probably the closest, and I don't think you can compare that to Europe, but it's the closest thing to a European sensibility about theater. There's a localized community. It's called downtown, and that's where the avant-garde and experimental and even ethnic stuff has been happening for the last more than 100 years. I don't know now what its future is, but there was a thing about just geographic proximity and being oriented to a place that with it came an atmosphere of experimentation. And I think when you talk about international stuff, you know, it's got to come out of, it rises out of that, you know, the ethnic neighborhood maybe. So it's like, how many of those buttons, those lights on the pinball machine can you light up will kind of like translate to how successful that particular thing is. Except that in another very American way, nothing lasts. So in other words, you can be very successful with an ethnic production in this generation, in this decade, and as people become assimilated, move on, whatever, everybody forgets that as part of history, the theatrical history of this locale. And whereas like in a New York, people still remember, you know, living theater productions from the 1960s or the happenings of the late 50s and early 60s. There's a sense of heritage, avant-garde heritage, if you will, that and Chicago has it too, but nobody remembers that the arts and crafts movement started here, the little theater movement, and so on. But people don't carry that with them, you know.
I was struck by the idea that what I miss isn't so much something that isn't there that I wish was there, and it's more that I wish that there was more room for the kind of risky experimental theatre that does exist, that's being produced by places like Trapdoor, thinking of Kate, and also Red Tape, Theatre Y, Sideshow, Chopin, places like that, that there is work being done on Chicago stages that reflects an international influence, reflects, I mean, you know, I'm thinking of like Red Tape doing plays by young Jean Lee. That kind of work is being done that is risky and is not easy for the audience, and it's challenging to the audience formally as well as in terms of its content, whether it's dealing with race or other kinds of issues. You know, that kind of thing is going on. It's not, I guess I'm interested in what it is that prevents, that restricts that to such a small part of the overall theatrical landscape,
Because I program a theater festival here in Chicago, I'm very aware of theater festivals all over the world. And one thing that I find when, for instance, I see the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, or I look for plays in the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, which gets theater pieces from all over the world, is that because this notion of theater is less formulaic in Europe and in Asia and in Australia and in South America, these themes of Black Lives Matter, of mental health, of Me Too are more quickly translated to stage in plays made by actors that are just, that they made their own stuff instead of waiting for the play to be written and very well written and normally, like with some kinds of like symbolism and then director and produced and picked up. And because they're not waiting for that process, right? There's a halfway between what you were speaking, of the performance on the street, which is performance, right? Which is high leveled emotion and intensity, but somehow it's more immediate with the themes that are happening, right? Because the process is not as formulaic or takes that long.
What Alice was saying was also making me think, because I generally only do new plays, and that's what I love. I love to do new plays. And so for me, if somebody's already done it, it's already less interesting to me. But I find sometimes if I'm sort of in a new universe that the people don't know me or don't know my work, that there tends to be a real fear around doing a new play, that if it hasn't been reviewed, if somebody important has not already said this is good, people don't want to touch it. And I think that is also a problem. And it can be difficult to sort of then me as a director to move to other theaters if I want to do new plays, but theaters are scared to do new plays.
And I have an anecdote about that. In my first production was a new play with a small theater, three cap productions, and the director, when we were auditioning actors, he kept asking them. He says, "This is new work. Do you have any aversion to working with new work?" And I was sitting back there and saying, "Why would anybody be averse to working with new work?" And then through the process, I understood what it is. There are lots of actors who are very comfortable in doing something that has been done 10,000 times before.
Well, the actor wants a career that will land him on movies and television. But I do think that going for that nerve, what's the live nerve? What's the third rail right now of culture? That's a way to ensure vitality. And so, yes, it demands that you bypass any commercial interests that aren't going with that. Now, sometimes there's an Angels in America where the commercial business combines with the zeitgeist to do something extraordinary. That's pretty rare. I don't think we can bank on that.
And that actually brings me back to the idea that I watched a lot of readings and new plays being developed and all of that. And at times I sit there and I say, I'm watching the exact same play 100 times over. They're by different playwrights, different stories, but the structure comes from the fact that how we teach playwriting. And Chicago Dramatists, has been in there, but now things are changing at Chicago Dramatists, and I think we're trying to break that mold and create something new. We have a diversity committee that I'm on, and I think we need to do more and more of that.
What I see this kind of form, and we have Neil and Kestutis are now teaching also at Chicago Dramatists, but for me as a teacher, I'm trying to figure out a way for the new playwrights to write the best version of the play they want to write. Mm-hmm. So it is giving them that freedom not to follow the cookie cutter. But I also think that once you're trying to do a more realistic kind of play, the well-written play that Alice is talking about is the hardest play to write, in the sense that it's unforgiving with the rules, right? So the well-written play is not easy to write. And if you're going down the road of writing a new play where two people are in a kitchen talking about everyday problems, you better be following the rules, because it's very hard otherwise, right? So it's very interesting that way. Neil, when you teach, how do you handle these kind of dilemmas as a teacher?
Well, I mean, I just taught my first class at Chicago Dramatists, and it sort of feels like getting my feet wet and getting to know the kind of the population that you have there. And I was teaching a class on the 10-minute play, so I was focused very much on sort of how much you can do in 10 minutes. But my idea going into that class, and what I would like to sort of do more in the future at Chicago Dramatists, is to sort of try to get people to break down what they think of as the correct way to tell the story that they're trying to tell, even if they end up putting it back together in the exact same way. But so I did do a certain amount of proposing kind of radical changes to the way that some of the students in that class had written the stories, because I sort of feel like you do get this sense that those kind of writers have a notion of how it's supposed to work, you know, in keeping with what we've been talking about. So for instance, like the idea of, I mean, I did end up talking a lot about things like, think about what's happening on stage that isn't in the words. And I think, you know, sometimes I think it's hard to get people to understand that, depending how much experience they have as an audience member of seeing a variety of theatre. But I think, you know, doing exercise like, how could you tell this story if you weren't allowed to have any lines? Like, how would, you know, that kind of thing? Or what would this be if it was a play taking place between two inanimate objects? Or, you know, just kind of things that, again, the point being not to push them in the direction that you want them to go all the way, but just to sort of get them to open up to other possibilities.
Just piggybacking on Neil, you know, in the teaching, you know, because I teach solo stuff, performance art and that, and the question is, the demand on the student is always, since they're writing stuff that they're going to perform, then you say, okay, what about this encounter, this dream you had about an encounter with your parents? And it's exactly what Neil said. What if there were no words? I asked them, I said, if this just happened in movement, how would you render it in movement? If this just happened by scene painting, you had to paint a scene of it, how would you render this in a painting? So I think we have to go to those basic areas of stretch into, okay, now apply the same imagination you use for words into this other discipline, whether it's movement. Sound is another thing. The word is one thing, but just the sound of sound, I would say we're as ignorant of as we are in movement.
I just wanted to remind us that we have just gone through a 1.5 year break from being on stage, and I hope it ends at a 1.5 years, but that during that time, we have come to rely on technology so much. And all of us are saying that technology component is going to survive beyond the pandemics, and we're going to use it later on. We should not forget that, because when you talk about word versus visual versus all of that, it is a matter of technology. And we need to bring in a lot more technology on stage and not be afraid of using it. If it distracts the audience, then it becomes a problem. But you can train your audiences to accept the new forms and things like that. So let's just embrace the technology when we go back to on stage, and not forget what we were doing during those couple of years.
Yeah. But surely another way to think about it is that, you know, it remains to be seen, but I have also wondered if there's going to be a reaction against technology, and there's going to be a kind of an embrace of like rough theater and poor theater, and that people are going to love the idea of going to an empty room with two actors doing this amazing performance using just their bodies and their voices and no lights even, you know. That's kind of what I'm hungry for.
Fouad, I wanted to ask you a question about the fabulous International Voices Project and Patricia Serra. I love that festival. Every year they bring 7, 8 translations from all over the world, and they do these great concert readings. I've been very lucky. I was invited as the Spanish entry in 2011. And I collaborated with them to bring other shows that I love from Europe. But then, no matter how fabulous some of these shows are, they're very hard. I was very lucky. I'm one of the great success stories because my show got produced. But it's very hard to produce some of these shows that they bring. Why? What is the disconnect? What are we missing in Chicago by not producing more international plays?
Well, it's everything. It's everything we've been talking about during this hour. But IVP actually has been very successful in taking some of those plays to production. I think Patricia counts more than 15 plays that got full productions over the last 11 years of the festival. Trapdoor is traditionally one that has done a few of those because as a partner, you come in with an idea that you're very much vested in, and then the moment that the audience is reacting to it nicely, then you see the potential for production. So it has happened a lot from that. There should be more. And I think we shouldn't also forget theaters in Chicago who have a mission that is ethnically based, because they're doing a great service to certain communities like Silk Road Rising, like Teatro Vista, like, other places like that. The more and more we have of those, the more we will have diversity and inclusion of ethnicity and international aspects in there.
And that's that's one thing that excites me about the mission of Chicago Dramatists, because I see that everywhere. I see that in my wife's doing a thing about Market Park, the Lithuanians and the Black demonstrations, Martin Luther King and so on, all that, there's drama there, and there are new stories to tell, not old predictable ones about how that went down, Yeah.
I think you're right. I think the problem is not with the audiences, it's with the theater's understanding of or lack of understanding of their audiences. I think audiences are very, very smart and intelligent, and when they see that kind of stuff, they'll take it. Theaters are just a little bit afraid to jump into these areas which they think are risky. But I've seen audiences embrace work that is not the typical stuff that you see. And we should take some risks. You started really with the risk idea. Let's go for risk.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for your time.
Oh, it was fantastic. Thank you.
I can't wait to see you in person and hug you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you all of our guests, and thank you all of our audience for sharing this important evening with us. We're now going to take a brief intermission before beginning our live discussion with myself and some of the artists you just met. We would love for all of you to stay, but if you can't, we would greatly appreciate any donations you're still able to give this evening by using the link in the chat. So we'll see you back here in 5 minutes. Yay!